Oh man, I wish I had one of those production slates they use on movie sets just to keep track of how many takes this video has been through. Been trying to film this for several days. Dealing with tablet issues now. Man, before that I was sick. Ay. So, this should be my long-awaited, no longer Halloween special, Rakdos Lord of Riots deck. So let's go. Have it in a fire satin tower. I like the normal satin towers a little bit better. These get scuffed up. I have a blue ice one that shows way more wear and tear than any other deck box I have. So, commander for this deck is Rakdos Lord of Riots. Point of this deck is simple. Deal a lot of damage across the board. Create a lot of chaos. Both to, whittle down life totals and just have fun with creating havoc. But also to take advantage of Rakdos' ability and drastically reduce the cost of a ton of powerful creatures. And hopefully just bang them out towards the end game. Just some ridiculous stuff in here. I think I need a Blightsteel Colossus for this deck, and that's about it. Have a lot of other monsters that just come in swinging. So, like I said, Rakdos Lord of Riots. I can't cast it unless my opponent lost life this turn. 6/6 flying trample for 4. And creature spells, like I said, cost 1 colorless less to cast for each life my opponent has lost this turn. Now let's get to the mana base, and you're going to see with this mana base, I'm not fooling around. My one and only Badlands. Oh dear. He says as he realizes, oh, it's in alphabetical order. Good. My one and only Badlands. This thing does double duty between this and my Kaalia deck. And, yeah, you can't beat a dual land. You just can't. Blood Crypt. Shockland. Always useful. I personally think you always need shocklands in a deck you care about. Bloodstained Mire. Again, pulls double duty from my Kaalia deck. My foil Khans of Tarkir one. I don't spend the money for fetches, but I will say if I crack them, I use them. Why not? Bajuka Bog. Nothing else to say. You guys have heard me wax poetic about it before. Castle Lockthwain. Sometimes I just need a little bit extra card draw. Command Tower. Just staple. Dragon Skull Summit. There's enough basics in this deck to justify this thing. Fabled Passage. I like it because in the late game I get the land untapped, so it's just better than most basic land fetches. Graven Cairns, the filters. Specifically in this deck and my Kaalia deck, because I oftentimes need a lot of black or a lot of red mana, so this is actually really useful. One of the newest lands to the deck, Haunted Ridge. I love it. It's a nice little idea. 2 or more, I'll take it. Luxury Suites. I really love these. Battle Bond lands, I call them the Commander dual lands. Just having 2 or more opponents, they're basically a dual land. Love it. Myriad Landscape. I'm sure there's something else I should throw in here. Like Warped Landscape or something, but I use it and it's functional. Rakdos Carnarium. Sometimes I like to bounce stuff back to my hand, like I said, Bajuka Bog and that. Also, I sometimes just can't help the fact that it just fits the flavor. Reliquary Tower. So, the CMC in this deck, when it comes to the creatures, is high. So sometimes it's just nice to have that little extra assurance that I'm not going to have to discard anything. Shadowblood Ridge. I like the Odyssey filters. Again, sometimes I just need the proper mana fixing for this deck. Some of the spells can get serious. Smoldering Marsh. I like it, but I also love the fact that I can fetch it up, Tainted Peak, definitely enough swamps in here to make this work. Precious Foil from Torment, love this thing. Amazed it's in this good condition, because I played with this thing back before, we all knew better to use sleeves every time. Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, the best black land ever made. Just endlessly useful. I need 2 more Guild Swamps. 10 swamps. 9 mountains. You know, obviously Rakdos Guild kit as much as I could. It's hard to find these lands for sale. And an original portal art. I love original portal art stuff because this is the starter deck I started with. So whenever I find these, I try and pick them up because I love, especially for a Rakdos colored deck, I utterly love the black mountains and the red sky. I wonder if anyone would actually watch a video of me just going on and on about Magic art. All right, moving up to the Planeswalkers. Chandra Torch of Defiance. Boy, this thing does everything this deck wants. First of all, her +1 abilities. You know, more mana for whatever I need. Exiling. You know, and sometimes again, I can't afford life loss for card draw in this deck because this thing fires in all directions, including my own. So I'm a little nervous of putting stuff, you know, where you normally see like kind of Sign in Blood, that kind of stuff. Phyrexian Arena. So just getting extra cards like from this thing is awesome. And of course, if I junk them, I can do damage for free. And that helps because I always want to do damage for free so I can focus on casting Rakdos or creatures whose costs have been lowered from Rakdos. The 4 damage, that's not my favorite. That's the least favorite, but also it's still useful. And the emblem, if I get it off, it's brutal. Mostly it's the first 2, but this thing is game-changing if it gets that ultimate. And I have before. Obnix. Boy, do I love this card. I need another one for my Black Demon deck. I just love the fact that I can cast him for 5, he hits the board, and I can instantly put a 5/5 demon in there. You know, the ultimate's nice, kinda. I really don't want to do that in this game. You know, sometimes because, well, you know, but sometimes I have to do it for the cards. The +2 is where it's really at. Gaining life, and hitting everybody around the table. Again, Planeswalker abilities are nice for doing damage in this deck because it frees up my mana to do everything else. But if I have to use his ultimate and draw some cards and gain some life and save my ass, I'll do it. Chandra the Awakened Inferno. Awakened. You know, the emblem, the +2 emblem, that thing is just fun. The fact that each opponent gets one, you know, that just makes it, that's just insane. So far, we haven't had anything to stop emblems. So considering this can't be countered, this is a clock. The 3 damage is also nice, and, you know, as is the final one, but really it's about racking up those emblems. It is just about extra damage, automatic damage, mana-free damage. That's what this is all about. The newest card. So, I cut 2 cards. I cut 2 cards from this deck in between some of the filmings, because I just realized that I had Slaughter Games. Talking about each card also helps me realize if there's something in there that probably shouldn't be. And I keep forgetting, I'm like, why is Slaughter Games in here? You know, basically using red and black extract, you know, a blue mana, 1 mana spell. You know, I'm doing that for, you know, like a whole bunch of red and black mana. Just useless. So Cost of Ambition is the newest weapon in this deck, and I like it. Just, you know, beginning my upkeep, everybody loses 3 life or lose cards out of their hand, and then, you know, when it becomes 6, just, again, this just seemed exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. Curse of Opulence, a great political card. Depending on who I curse, you know, give everybody gold. You know, I like this card. It incentivizes, don't attack me. Sulfuric Vortex. You know, shutting off life gain is so crucial to this deck. And, you know, this thing punches in all directions, including mine. Theater of Horrors. Much like Chandra, this is about that exiling on that top card and being able to play it. You know, the 4 damage to deal, or the 4 mana to deal 1 damage is nice, but it's just a nice little versatile card that has multiple uses, and it's only 3 mana. Pyrohemia. So, it was really between Pyrohemia and Pestilence, for those of you who don't know, is this card just all black. 2 black and 2, you know, black for 1 damage to each creature and each player, and if there's no creatures, sacrifice Pestilence. So I just felt for balance I needed Pyrrhemia. Havoc Festival. This thing is so nasty. I don't need this one to win me the game, but it makes a great target for a lot of my opponents' removal because they hate this thing. People hate seeing this. Again, another no life, but then everybody loses half their life, so love that even more. How many? 2 more enchantments. Fiery Emancipation. Anything that I deal damage, does triple. I try not to play expensive enchantments that don't do anything when they hit the board, but this was just too good for this deck. This is just too perfect. I love Fiery Emancipation. And Captive Audience. Another fun one because this can just allow everybody to get an army, and then I'm going to blow up the armies. I utterly love this thing. Discarding an opponent's hand or their life total becomes 4. Like, this is lose all around. Now on to the sorceries, instants, and artifacts. Vandal Blast. Destroy target artifact I don't control with Overload. Annoying artifacts and enchantments. This is a black and red deck, so obviously those are some weaknesses. Feed the Swarm. Darn enchantments. And if I absolutely have to, I can destroy a creature. Dreadbore. Cheap. I love Dead Rebels. I'm actually waiting to see if Spectacle comes back at some point. There's more Spectacle cards. I just like the idea. A lot of my stuff's going to die. A lot of my opponent's stuff's going to die. But, for the 2 mana, it's a great cost. Oblivion Strike, this is another one. A lot of you guys, if you watch my videos regularly, will know I utterly love. This comes back from the days of Iona. This thing it's got Devoid, so protection from black doesn't save you. Exile, so it doesn't hit the graveyard for reanimation. And it also gets rid of, Indestructible, that kind of stuff. Damnation. I only have one of this precious removal spell, and it went in this deck. Because I have a lot of gods and a lot of other big things that might take more of a hit from, like, Mutilate, I chose this. I might take out one of my more expensive enchantments for Mutilate, but so far, it has been necessary. But it's one of those things that I'm considering tooling around with the deck. Hour of Devastation. When you're dealing damage to everything, all creatures losing Indestructible is incredible. And dealing 5 to everything is also just vicious. It's 5 damage for 5, but it's really losing Indestructible that drives me for this. Like my dragon decks, there's a decent base of flyers on my top curve. So late game, this will destroy a lot of small armies and leave my flyers untouched. And I'm fairly confident in my flyers getting through with combat. Consume Spirit. I said I kind of need a decent amount of fixing with this deck, and it's a perfect example as to why. I just like the fact that I gained the X life instead of just the damage that's dealt, like Drain Life or Soulburn. So, just a nice way to gain back some life or destroy something, or gain life and destroy something, or just hit an opponent's face if I have the mana to do some real damage. But just a good card for this deck. Profane Command, speaking of losing life, it's a resurrection spell. It's a -1/-1. It can lose life, or creatures can gain fear. In the right deck, fear can be brutal. Fear can be utterly powerful, so I don't like to write that off too quickly. Also, you guys have heard me say, -X gets around gods, indestructibles, that kind of stuff. Terminate, my favorite removal spell of all time. Rakdos Charm, nice little Swiss Army knife there. Bedevil. The fact that, I'm just worried about Planeswalkers or artifacts that won't get hit by most of my mass damage other spells, Cauldron Dance, this is another little fun one. So this goes back to Invasion, and for those of you who don't know, basically, you take a creature from your hand, creature in your graveyard during combat, and they both hit the board. You know, you do whatever you have to do with them, attack, block, what have you, and then the one that was in your hand dies, and the one that was in the graveyard bounces back to your hand. You know, it's a fun little card, and a lot of people just don't expect it. Artifacts. Soul Ring. Yeah. Rakdos Signet. Mm-hmm. And Arcane Signet. Click the button. That was easy. Is that joke too dated? Alright, on to the creatures. First time I filmed this video. First time. I was 4 cards away from ending the whole video. It's 4 cards away. So let's see how this goes. Oh, that hurts so much. Bog Initiate. As I said, sometimes I just need really good fixing. And this is really good fixing. You know, not like some of the other cards where it's pay 1 and tap something, you know. It's just straight up turn any mana into black mana. Harsh Mentor. I love punishing my opponent. I love punishing them for doing things, especially if it's on my turn. That really helps. Thermo Alchemist. You know, not the greatest pinger of all time, but he's got a decent body, and if I happen to cast an instant or sorcery, he untaps. So, you know, he does a little. Sometimes he can do a lot. Stigma Lasher. Okay, so I had... Why? I had Dreadhorde Butcher in this deck. Not sure why. But, Stigma Lasher does so much that I want to do. It withers down blockers, but more importantly, when he deals damage, that player can't gain life for the rest of the game. Just, man, that's just mean. That is mean-spirited right there. Stormfist Crusader, another great newcomer. You know, beginning of my upkeep, each player draws a card and loses a life. It just works a little better. You know, because this is obviously a Rakdos aggro deck. You know, I say I don't have, like, a lot of Phyrexian Arena type cards, but I really do like this one. And a lot of people are stubborn enough or foolish enough to let it stick around because they want those cards too. Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. Oh, man, from the first time I saw this thing in, like, you know, Beyond Death previews, I fell in love with it. I love sending it to the graveyard. I'll happily let it escape because there's a lot of non-creature spells that can hit the graveyard that I can't resurrect. So, even if I'm just playing it for the 2, returning it, playing it again, like, this thing is so nasty. I utterly love it. Unfortunately, it cannot be targeted by the Cauldron Dance the same way it would other things. You know, it would immediately be sacrificed. Varchild, Betrayer of Kildor. I like it because it's another semi-political card. I can give an army of things to people who, you know, get damaged by it, so I can trade for resources if I have to. And then they can't kill me, or they can't attack me, and I get them when she dies. This comes from the fact that the original idea from this deck didn't really work as a Rakdos engine. It worked more off chaos and just having everybody attack each other. It's like Thantis the Warweaver without the green, you know? So, she's one of those holdovers, but she still works. Gutter Snipe. Said I love, you know, punishing opponents when they do stuff. Now they can also get punished when I do stuff. There's enough sorceries and instants here that it can work fairly consistently. Cryptborn Horror. For 3 mana, playing this on the right turn, this thing can come out massive and with trample and just makes lives miserable. Again, since it's not actually one of my big monster top curve cards, this can be a perceived threat that people will instinctually try and target, and then, you know, come out with my real threats. And it can still do damage until it dies. Zancha, again, coming back to the earlier stages of this deck. I like how the fact that I draw a card, you know, the opponent loses 2 life, or anyone can draw a card and they lose 2 life. This is just another great political card that I can use as a very powerful weapon. And again, I get the card. Or, you know, whoever pays the ability. It's just, it hasn't failed me yet. And she's a 5/5, so she can do damage to other people. Vile Smasher the Fierce. Oh boy. I said something earlier about needing free damage. So, if I'm casting creatures, doing damage, cast more creatures, especially if Rakdos is in play, this thing is such a great, great weapon alongside Rakdos. Solemn Simulacrum, he hits the board, I get a land drop, he leaves, I get to draw a card. Simple. It was really hard. It's always hard to see if I can only fit one of them, whether it's going to be Solemn Simulacrum or Burnished Heart. Hazoret the Fervent. So this deck is going to burn through its hand quick. One of those reasons I like extra little card draw abilities. So Hazoret is going to be in a position to attack more times than not. Also, she can simply discard the cards herself, of course. She's a nice mana sink, and she does a lot I want this deck to do. Anger, speaking of things I want in the graveyard. Enough mountains to make this really easy. And, again, there's some various discard outlets, or just letting him die in combat or sacrificing him or something. He's just a great thing to have around and then die, and then really pay off. Spawn of Mayhem. I expect a lot of spectacle stuff to be paid just for the amount of damage I intend to deal with this deck. So, basically a 3/3 fly or 4/4 flying trample for 4. The 10 or less life, it's not the most important thing, but it might help sometimes. Rekindling Phoenix, one of my favorite arts in all of Magic the Gathering. Sleeve does not do justice to the purples and just beautiful colors in this card. Again, I like that its token is completely free. I don't have to pay attention or invest mana or have particular timing on bringing this thing back. It's not triggered. It just happens. Avaricious Dragon. Again, getting more cards. A full graveyard is fun in this deck because there's many ways to bring stuff back. You saw Cauldron Dance. Dead Revels. There's some creatures that can interact with the graveyard. And also Hazoret works with a low hand. This guy likes to get me extra cards. I'll play them and keep my hand empty. Speaking of cards that interact with the graveyard, Chainer, Nightmare Adept. You guys have probably heard me talk about how much I love this character. From the novel Chainer's Torment. This is the second version. Came out in the Madness Commander deck. Appropriate. So, discard, you may cast a creature card from your graveyard to activate this ability once this turn. Nice. You can just get certain graveyard triggers, like giving it haste if it doesn't have anger in the graveyard. I can immediately discard and cast anything. So basically, all my creatures have haste, effectively. Or I can junk a card that I didn't need to cast a different one from the graveyard. There's a lot I can do with this. Or cast anger and give everything, or discard anger and give everything haste forever, and then bring something else out entirely. Mogis, God of Slaughter. Invincible. He's a god. Devotion to black and red is less than 7. He isn't a creature. So the real thing is, of course, during each opponent's upkeep, Mogis deals 2 damage to them unless they sacrifice a creature. I love how efficient that is. Sacrificing gets around a lot of things like hexproof. And he can wreak havoc on Voltron decks. Gary! I'm going to be losing a lot of life in this deck, and I need to get it back. There's a lot of black mana symbols in here. Ironically, as I fan the deck, I see only red ones. But you guys have heard me talk about him from various decks, how much I love this card. Neheb the Eternal, speaking of zombies. Afflict is nice because even if you try and chump block it, he causes my opponent to lose life, just contributing more and more and more to Rakdos Lord of Riots' ability. And then I get more mana, so he just works by all accounts. Glorybringer. Like Gary, you guys have heard me talk about this before. I love it. You know why I love it. Exert is one of my favorite abilities. The Scorpion God. I love this thing. So, whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter dies, draw a card. 3 mana, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. And it bounces back to the hand at the beginning of the next end step when it dies. Again, -1/-1 counters just hit, gods and other things. Indestructibles, Eldrazi. It's just a way. It's a nice, consistent way of getting rid of things. So I said once that Master of Cruelties was too cruel for my Kaalia deck. Not this one. Not this one. This is a deck I don't mind having everyone at the table hate me. This thing can just be so vicious. Especially like taking advantage of him, throw him in the graveyard, bring him back with Chainer. Just this, you can Cauldron Dam this guy into play, and it's just brutal. I didn't say I had to attack with that other creature, or just use one, but just Master of Cruelties. Many would say one of, if not the most crucial demon in all of Magic. Just vicious, busted. Rakdos the Showstopper. Insert HBK's music here. 6 is Flying Trample, and his coin flip ability to possibly destroy everything that isn't a demon, devil, or imp. There are some indestructibles in here, so even if Tails lands, indestructibles will survive. It's just a really great card. Karavek the Merciless, again, punishing my opponent. Equal to the spell's converted mana cost, so that gets really mean. I love Karavek. Vampiric Dragon. Mostly this is to ping things out of the way. Again, it's a high CMC, so obviously this is something that I'm going to be bringing out with Rakdos. And just his ability to just ping things down and get bigger for it. Again, he can take over games, or he can be a perceived threat. The Pestilence Demon. So, everything I said about Pestilence, except for the sacrifice ability, basically does Pestilence. 1 damage to each creature and each player for a black mana. I love how big he is. I love just how widespread he can put this damage. This is easily one of my favorite things to bring out mid to late game. Dread Cacodemon. Whew, so close, so close. Stay with me, video. Stay with me. The Dread Cacodemon enters the battlefield. If you cast it from your hand, destroy all creatures your opponent controls. Then tap all creatures you control. Cast from your hand. This is designed for cards like... Rakdos is designed for cards like this. Bringing down that mana cost. So I might even be able to pay 3. You want to pay 3 for an 8/8? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? That's the whole point of this deck. This top curve. Talk about how many great creatures I have in my deck, and then they have this damn thing. This is so nepotistic. It's in here because it's one of my favorite. It's my forever Timmy mindset. I fell in love with this card when I saw it when I was a kid in a magazine. I love it. I can't help it. I can get it really cheap, and it removes a hand from the game. Someday I'll wisen up and take this out. But so far, it's just... I don't have the heart to take it out. And now, the grand finale. What I really want to get... And again, mind you, I just said Blightsteel isn't in there. Both Ulamogs. Kozilek, the original. And Emrakul. Gotta love these things. Just realizing they were colorless. Again, this is why I'm on a quest to get my hands on a Blightsteel. Just like I said, just... Whenever you cast it, exile 2 permanents, indestructible. Player exiles top 20 cards of his library. Like, Rakdos wants to bring this into play and watch. And a 10/10. So, even if it was to suffer from, hour of devastation, not hour, just the amount of things it can survive. It's a 10/10. Even if it loses indestructible, it's a lot to put down. Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. Annihilator 4, man. I don't know who came up with Annihilator, but it's so broken. That destroys target permanent. Whenever it's put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles in back into his or her graveyard into their library. Wow. Can't speak. I'm so tense hoping this video lasts to the end. I'm so close. So basically, if I want to get a reshuffle, I can just discard him through a couple of different effects, and it's really useful. Kozilek! You know, draw 4 cards, Annihilator 4, and again, shuffle that graveyard in the library when he dies. Just 12/12. It's mean. So again, like I said, so they don't fly, but they can certainly withstand Earthquake. Then Emrakul. You know, it should cost 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard, and then when you cast, get control of any opponent during the next player's turn. After that, that player takes an extra turn. So, flying, trample, and protection from instants. Just... I love this thing. Rakdos wants at least 1 or more of these out, and it's game. Again, I probably need to invest in a Blightsteel, and let's be honest, I probably need to take out one of those heavy 6-mana enchantments. The only reason, for the record, I talked about some of my favorite staples, you know, like Glorybringer and Bajukabog and that. The only reason one of my other favorite ones is in here is I didn't have one when I built the deck. I don't have a Balthor the Defiled. I need one for this deck. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna take out. But yeah, so he's the honorary 101th card. He is the sideboard. You know, I gotta actually find room for him. So that is the deck. That is my beloved Rakdos deck. And again, behind Kalia and my zombie deck, I say I love all 3 of those decks kind of even. Probably Kalia a bit more just because of, you know, she was like my first commander project. So happy that I finally got this done, you know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video because, man, did it take a lot to produce. Thank you so much for waiting. Thank you for being so patient with me, guys. I hope to actually have an unboxing. A package should be arriving for me tomorrow. And let's see what we're going to do this weekend. Or next weekend after that. Should be getting very, very, very close to Crimson Vow. So that'll be fun. Finally go back to getting some boxes, some bundles, opening that stuff, commenting on it, probably gushing over or criticizing the art more than I should. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Happy Halloween, happy Samhain, blessed be. So happy I got this video out. You have no idea. Thank you, guys. Thank you all of you. See you guys next time.